Hey friends, Mike Adams here with First Person Audio. In this short video, I want to show you 4 changes within the new version of Audacity, version 3.1. The first thing that we're going to talk about is how moving audio around within Audacity just got a lot easier and a lot faster. And then we're going to turn our attention to some things in the Playhead that have changed, properties in the Playhead that have changed that you need to know about. From there, I'm going to show you the new trimming abilities of Audacity, where we can trim a piece of audio, we can trim a waveform, and not lose any of the data that we've trimmed off. This is a good step towards non-destructive editing within Audacity, and it makes Audacity that much better to use. And then we're going to wrap up this video with a look at the new loop function within Audacity version 3.1. So you ready? Here we go. I suppose one of the easiest ways to demonstrate these changes is to start in a previous version of Audacity. In this screen, I've got Audacity version 3.0.5 open with a little file in there that we're going to use for this demo. So the first thing I want to talk about is the old way of having to move a section of audio. If I wanted to move this middle section of audio, for example, it was a 2-step process and it took a lot of mouse movement in order to do it. So what I used to have to do is I would come up to the time shift tool and select it and grab the piece of audio that I wanted to move around, and get it set where I wanted it to set. And then when I was done moving it, I had to come back up to the tools toolbar and select the selection tool and then come down and, put my cursor wherever I wanted it in the audio. So it took a lot of mouse movement. It took a little bit of time, especially if I was doing a lot of editing. Well, that's one of the changes that's improved in version 3.1 that I'm going to show you in just a second. Another one concerns the Playhead. In versions prior to 3.1, here's what the Playhead looked like. I'm clicking Control-click on my mouse pad because I'm using a MacBook. If you're on Windows, I'm sure it's right-click, but you can experiment with that and let me know. So I'm holding down Control-click on my Mac, and that brings up this window. Well, what I wanted to show you here is that enabled quick play was an option with the Playhead. If I enabled quick play, what that meant is anywhere that I click in the time bar is where it begins to play, just like this. Room tone, noise floor, and MP3 file size. And so in order to not do that, I could just put my cursor down here somewhere in a track and it wouldn't do it. And I usually keep that off. Again, I'm going to do Control click here and I'm going to disable that. And when I disable it, you'll see that when I come back up here into the time bar, I can put my Playhead anywhere and it doesn't automatically start playing. Well, that's gone in version 3.1. It looks like in version 3.1, enabled Playhead is always on. So here's a look both before and after of these two menus with the Playhead, and you can see the differences there. And enable quick play is gone because it looks to me like enable quick play is always enabled. It's no longer an option, which isn't a big deal. But if you're not used to that, you just need to know that it's there and you're going to have to put the cursor down in the waveform somewhere in one of the tracks in order to not have it play. But getting back to how we move files around in version 3.1, it is a little bit different. You'll see here in this screenshot that the time shift tool is completely gone now. And also right here next to the record button is now a loop function button. And so let's talk about those. I'm going to open this same project now in version 3.1 and let's take a look at it. So now I've got that same file open in version 3.1 of Audacity and you can notice some changes. There's a box now around each of my different pieces of audio that I have selected. And you'll notice up here in the toolbar that there's that loop button and the time shift tool is gone. It's not an option anymore. So let's talk about that first. Now, instead of having to do a 2-step thing when I want to move a piece of audio around, I can just come down to the audio clip that I want to move, and you can see in that header that the mouse turns into a little hand. And once I have that little hand on there, I can just click and hold, and I can move that audio around wherever I want to move it to. I can move it to another track, I can keep it in the same track, and I just have the ability now to move that around without having to go up and grab that other tool, and then come back down and grab the cursor again, and back and forth. That's a real time saver. And I think that's a really good feature. And again, just to bring it to your attention, you'll see that each section of audio is now enclosed in a little box. In my opinion, this is a much needed step in the upgrade here in version 3.1. Anything that saves us time is a good thing. And now that version 3.1 is open here, if we come back over to the Playhead that we looked at a second ago in the previous version, if I control click here, you'll see that that option is no longer there to enable quick play. Now, something else that's new here in version 3.1 is when I delete a section of audio, if I select through this piece right here and I hit delete, it doesn't move any of the other audio to the right of that deletion. So when I hit delete, you can see that this piece of audio over here stayed right where it was. It didn't move. I'm going to undo that and put that audio clip back in there. But let me show you how to get around that. If you want that audio to move over like it used to, you can simply come up to the Audacity drop-down window and look at Preferences. And once you get into Preferences, go to Tracks Behavior. And if you click this option right here, editing a clip can move other tracks, or editing a clip can move other clips, and then click OK. And then if I come back and I delete this piece of audio, that track to the right moves over to fill in that gap that was left. So that's a way around that if that's a feature that you want to keep. Now I'm going to undo what I just did, and I'm going to come back up here into the Preferences window real quick, and I'm going to uncheck that for the time being. Another feature here in Audacity version 3.1 that is really good in terms of the trek toward non-destructive editing is that if I come down to one of my pieces of audio here and I want to trim it back, like for example, if this was two people really talking in real time, you've got them talking over each other right here in this section. Well, one way to take care of that now is to simply grab that selection on the right that you want to trim and bring it back to the point where you want it and, trim it up that way. The cool thing about this trim feature is that it remembers the previous audio. So if I do trim a piece of audio down, it's non-destructive in the sense that when I come back later and I want to expand that back out, that will still be there. Also, if I trim a piece of audio down and I select through that audio and I copy it, and then I come back into that same track or some other track and I paste it back in, we can see that the audio that I pasted back in still has the data that I trimmed off. So that's a really good feature and a really good movement toward non-destructive editing within Audacity. So I'm going to undo what I just did in order to get rid of that little clip right there. And now let's look at the loop function. If I come up to the time bar and I grab a little section of audio and I want it to loop through there, again, if I just click once in that loop plugin, and we also install the declicker plugin, it will play that piece of audio that I've got selected over and over and over again until I tell it to stop. So to deactivate that loop, I simply click the loop button, and then if I want to delete that region altogether, just get it out of the way so that it doesn't confuse me, I can control click on my Mac or probably right click if you're in Windows. So if I do a control click, I can select clear looping region. And that option to clear the looping region is also over here on my Playhead icon. If I control click, I can clear the looping region right here as well. If I've selected through a piece of audio that I want to loop, I can select the audio. I can come up to the control head icon, or the Playhead icon rather, and I can set loop to selection. And that will enable my looping up there based on what I've got selected. And again, if I come up and control click in the time bar, I can clear that looped region. But it keeps that portion of selected audio within the track still highlighted. So those are a few of the improvements in Audacity version 3.1, which was released just a couple of days ago. And I can see that they're progressing toward non-destructive editing, so I'm really happy to see that. So that's a brief look at those 4 new features in Audacity. If you upgrade to version 3.1 of Audacity, be ready to see that user interface changed just a little bit, because after all, surprises aren't always a good thing. Hey listen, thanks for following me here on YouTube. I really appreciate it. You can find me online at firstpersonaudio.com. That's firstpersonaudio.com. And until next time, you all take care.